This is pioneering spirit, straddling an oil platform in the North Sea. It doesn't crane the platform up from the side the way every other heavy-lift vessel on the water does. It sails directly around the structure, closes two enormous hulls in on it like a pair of jaws, locks on, and lifts the entire thing, topsides weighing up to 60,000 tons, straight up in a single motion, stabilized against the ocean's own movement so precisely that the actual lift can happen in a matter of seconds once it begins, close enough to hear the platform's own structure groan under a strain it was never designed to feel from underneath. Here's the detail almost nobody registers. There is no second ship that can do this. The largest conventional crane vessel on Earth, a Hirama-operated ship called Thialf, tops out at 14,200 tons. Across both of its cranes combined, that's the record, set decades ago, and nobody's beaten it since. Pioneering spirit lifts more than 4 times that weight, alone, in a single motion. For anything above what Thialf can manage, the standard method is to cut the platform apart offshore, piece by piece, over months, and haul it away in sections. Think of it like this. Imagine there were only one crane on the planet capable of lifting a football stadium whole, off its foundations and setting it down somewhere else fully intact. Every other option requires demolishing the stadium first and hauling it away in pieces. That's the actual gap between this ship and everything else in offshore heavy lift. So why does only one company in the world own something like this? It isn't a lack of money. Shell, BP, and Equinor between them could fund a dozen of these ships without blinking. It isn't a lack of demand. The UK North Sea alone has roughly 470 platforms and over 5,000 wells that will eventually require decommissioning. And across the UK, Norway, and the Netherlands, regulators project total North Sea decommissioning costs above €50 billion in the years ahead. And it isn't a lack of interest. Even Hirama Marine Contractors, the company that set the 14,000-ton conventional lifting record Thialf still holds, has never attempted to build a rival single-lift vessel of its own. The real answer isn't money or demand at all. It's a physics problem that took one company over 25 years, and a design nobody else has been willing to gamble on since. The concept was first sketched out in 1987 by Edward Hirama, founder of the Swiss offshore contractor Allseas. It took until 2010 for the company to place a shipbuilding contract, with Daewoo Shipbuilding and Marine Engineering in South Korea initially valued at roughly €454 million, and until late 2014 for the vessel to actually be delivered. By the time later systems were added, total investment in the vessel is estimated to have climbed past €2 billion. Over 2.5 decades between the idea and a finished ship, for one specific reason. Nobody had ever built a hull capable of holding tens of thousands of tons of dead steel weight, off-center, while the ocean underneath it kept moving, and no shipyard anywhere else in the world, including the same South Korean and Chinese yards responsible for building nearly every large commercial ship on Earth today, has attempted to replicate it since. Pioneering spirit solved the problem with a split-hull catamaran design, 2 enormous parallel hulls, 382 meters long, connected by lifting beams that grip a platform from both sides at once, powered by 12 Rolls-Royce diesel-electric azimuth thrusters, holding position through dynamic positioning rather than anchors. A motion compensation system reads the ship's own movement against the waves in real time and adjusts the lift beams to cancel it out, so the platform stays essentially still relative to the ship even in open swell. It's the naval engineering equivalent of catching an egg thrown at you without cracking the shell. Except the egg weighs as much as a small office building, and the ship carries a crew of up to 571 to operate it. The actual removal follows the same sequence almost every time. The platform's legs are prepared months in advance, with cutting points installed while the structure is still fully operational and often still manned. On lift day, pioneering spirit sails in and straddles the platform directly, closes its lifting beams onto pre-installed connection points on the top sides, and severs the final structural connections. Then the hydraulic jacking system inside each hull lifts the entire structure clear in a matter of minutes, well before the platform is ever ferried onto a cargo barge and sailed to shore for dismantling and recycling. What used to be a months-long offshore operation, with workers cutting a platform apart piece by piece above open water, is compressed into a single controlled motion. So who's the one company that spent over €2 billion building something nobody else thought was possible? And the ship's very name almost sank the project before it ever lifted anything. The vessel wasn't originally called Pioneering Spirit. Allseas first named it Peter Shelter, after founder Edward Hiramer's late father, who had served as a Waffen-SS officer during the Second World War and was imprisoned afterward for his role. When Shell announced plans to charter the ship for its Brentfield decommissioning project in early 2015, the name triggered international backlash. Jewish advocacy groups, maritime unions, and eventually the UK government itself called on Allseas to change it before the vessel could operate in European waters. Weeks later, Allseas agreed, and the ship entered service under its current name. Its first job came in 2016 at Talisman's Wyme platform in the Norwegian North Sea. In April 2017, it completed its real breakthrough, lifting Shell's 24,000-ton Brent Delta topsides off its legs. In roughly 12 hours, a job that would have taken traditional multi-crane methods the better part of a year. It went on to remove Brent Bravo in 2019, Brent Alpha in 2020, and by 2024 had completed the entire four-platform Brentfield decommissioning Shell originally commissioned it for. In between, it handled the 23,000-ton Ninian Northern platform and installed both drilling and process topsides at Norway's giant Johan Sverdrup field. In 2021, Allseas added a second lift system built specifically for jackets, the underwater support legs, using two connected steel beams each 170 meters long and weighing 6,500 tons combined, extending the vessel's single lift capability to 20,000 tons of jacket weight. On top of everything it could already do with topsides. By 2025, when it completed the single lift removal of EnQuest's Heather Alpha platform, a job that took the better part of a year to prepare, installing custom lift points and structural reinforcement, while the platform was still manned. Before the actual lift itself took only hours, it had safely removed and transported over 250,000 tons of decommissioned platform material to shore since entering service. 11 years after Pioneering Spirit entered service, that 14,000-ton conventional crane record still stands as the ceiling for every other vessel on the water. Nobody has come within striking distance of matching this ship's capability, let alone building a second one. But a decade without a real rival doesn't mean nobody's tried to catch up. It means the thing racing toward this one ship isn't a competitor. It's a backlog bigger than even it can handle alone. The North Sea isn't the only region running out of time. In late 2024, Allseas announced Pioneering Spirit would tackle Australia's largest ever offshore platform removal project in the Bass Strait, a sign that demand for this exact capability has gone global. Industry analysts at IHS Markit have projected roughly 2,000 more offshore structures worldwide will need decommissioning between 2021 and 2040 alone, part of a global spend estimated at over $210 billion through 2040. Every one of those jobs, from the Gulf of Mexico to the North Sea to Southeast Asia, currently funnels toward the capacity of a single vessel, owned by a single company, with no second ship anywhere near completion to help carry the load. Even China's state shipbuilders, the same conglomerate responsible for building the majority of the world's largest container ships today, have never announced a rival single lift vessel, despite having both the dry docks and the capital to attempt one. This was never really a shipbuilding story. It's a race against a 50-year backlog of aging infrastructure, that the rest of the offshore industry spent decades not preparing for. And right now, there's exactly one company and one ship standing between hundreds of retired platforms and the ocean floor. The next time you see a rig sitting quietly offshore, there's a good chance that someday one specific ship, and no other, will be the one that takes it apart, quietly straddling it and lifting the whole thing clear in a matter of minutes. If you want to understand what it takes to actually build something at this scale in the first place, that story's on the left. And if you want to see what happens when an entire industry runs out of room to store what it can't yet remove, that one's on the right.